Hello, can you see and hear me? I hope. Please? Hello! So again, hi, my name is Heather. I'm not supposed to be here, but that's okay. We love me anyway. I think. Yay! So today, we are calling an audible because our fearless leader is still out sick, and that means no fire tutorial tonight, although I actually do have a lighter to use as part of my tutorial, so that is fire. So technically, I'm still thematically correct. So, go me! So, in honor of the eclipse and the crystals that we sold last night, I am making a crystal keeper necklace. So, what that means is I am going to use macrame to make this cute little pocket where you can stick a crystal in it, and it can be, the way this is made, it can expand and contract pretty well. So the only thing you can't put in here is a crystal that is smaller than this square. If the square is too big and the crystal falls out, then you need a smaller grid. Otherwise, you can absolutely make this. Jason, of course it is. Fire. But you can make it fit something, big and chunky, or you can make it fit something long and flat. So it's the same technique. And you can also, if you want to make it a little bit more secure and you have a large enough hole bead, you can put a bead on top of all of these cords and slide it down. I will say that just this construction actually works pretty well. I haven't really, unless you're like gonna fling it around your head, which I don't know why I'm doing this. I don't have a good track record with flinging things. That's Allison. She flings things into my bra, but that's for another day. When she's here, Googly Eye was found, in case you were part of that saga. So Googly Eye was found. It is safe. It is not anywhere on my person, and was not anywhere on my person, it turns out. So I am going to make, there are two different versions of this. And I'm going to make, I know, choices were made, but I survived. So you can make this, which I just call the pocket version, or you can make one with a tassel. And since the two that I have here in the store are the pocket version, I'm thinking I'm going to do a... braining myself with a crystal is certainly one way to banish negative thoughts. Not toward that particular crystal, but in general, I might just brain all the thoughts out of my head. Who knows? So there's an alternate version of this where you can also make a crystal keeper with a little tassel on it. So since we don't have any of those left in the store, I am making one of those. And I'm using Chinese knotting cord in the 0.8 millimeter. No, not how we deal with intrusive thoughts. Are you sure though? So this is, okay, sorry, I gotta, exposure's good. That's better. All right. Yes, so this is actually metallic cord that will in fact burn better than most metallic cord will. I'm not going to say it burns as well as normal Chinese knotting cord, but you know how much I like shiny things, and it does come in gold and silver, and it has like mermaid colors and things like that available too. So this is 0.8 millimeter Chinese knotting cord, which is a nylon polyester blend. We love knotting with it. It's wonderful for macrame because it melts, especially if you're doing true macrame where you might need to melt something to something else. The metallic cord is maybe not your best choice. Depends on how good you are with the lighter. But I love it, and it's also a little bit scratchy, so if you're extra sensitive, it may not be good around the back of your neck. However, it's so pretty, and I'm on the internet, and I can make whatever I want. So there. And I'm making something shiny. So typically you have two choices. You either have 4 pieces of this cord that are 5 feet long, or, so that's for the pocket version because those will double over. Or if you want to make a tassel, you're going to have 8 pieces that are 3 feet long. So the first thing, it's good to see you, Irish Disney nerd. We don't mind if you don't stay the whole time. You can dip in and out however you need to, and we're so glad to see you for however long we get you. It's a treat. So with the tassel, I'm going to start out by making a knot that is the tassel at the bottom. So I am just lining up the ends of all of these. We are doing the tassel version today just because I have the pocket version so you can see what that looks like. So I want you to see what the tassel version looks like. Now when you're done with this, you can put beads on the ends here if you want to make a really fancy tassel, or you can not. So tonight I'm not going to put beads on the end, but I will probably put them on the end after I'm done and show you how that turned out. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to tie an overhand knot to keep all of these together. So an overhand knot is you just make a loop and you pull the end or ends, because we're treating all 8 of these pieces as, we can do another tutorial for the pocket version, Lori, but literally the only difference is what you do right here. So either you are going to tie a knot in the end of all 8 pieces, or you will tie the same knot in the center of the 4 5-foot long pieces. So 2 options. You either tie an overhand knot at the end for the tassel, or you tie an overhand knot in the center for the pocket. Everything else remains exactly the same. So I have a handout that is, the only difference is the first couple things. Just this knot. So we can do another one if you want, but I might wait a little bit just because it isn't all that different. But this is a cool project and it's an easy project, so I think we can definitely do another one. So I am going to tighten this, and I'm using my fingers to kind of place my knots. I also have tweezers over here, so if I want to do more precise knots and place them very specifically, I can absolutely do that. If I don't, then I don't have to. So I've just tightened this knot, and if you've got any pieces that are sticking out all on their own, you can just tighten, because sometimes you'll get one piece that just sort of is like, I'm going to make my own loop and it's going to be weird, and here I go. So if that is happening, then you can just tighten each individual piece to get your knot as one whole. And now I'm going to take advantage of bead stoppers. So you can use bead stoppers, which is definitely something that we use all the time here at the Beading Dreams. You can use paper clips or little binder clips or chip clips or bobby pins, or honestly anything that you can think of that's just a little clippy thing. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to divide all of these pieces into 2 that are next to each other. And the reason I'm doing 2 that are next to each other and I'm not doing anything yet to tie them off is because if you decide after you divided them that the 2 next to each other are not as next to each other as they had previously appeared, then you can change that. So what I'm doing is I'm going to start creating my net. All of this is in the long end. You can see that I've still got the short end hanging out, just doing its own thing. So I've got 4 groups of 2, and I'm just going to do a knot on each one going all the way around. And then I'm going to use my bead stoppers again. So I'm going to just take them off. So these are awesome. They're these little springy things, and the little handle parts you just squeeze together like Mickey Mouse ears, and you can just slide them on and let go, and they just stay where they are. They help keep beads from sliding off and that sort of thing, which is great. But again, like I said, this doesn't have to be a bead stopper. It just needs to be something to kind of keep track of which of the cords you're working with. So I have chosen just at random, because it really doesn't matter, I've chosen at random one set of the cords. So I'm going to do another overhand knot. And right now, the placement doesn't matter. The placement is going to be done with my fingers or tweezers, whichever I prefer. I am most likely going to use just my fingers because not everybody has tweezers around. Now, you want to pay attention to how far away from the center knot, because the center knot that we just tied is going to be underneath the crystal. It's going to be this knot that sits underneath everything. Is just bigger. So we want to tie this knot that we're tying right now about 1/2 inch away from the center. And I've got a ruler here so I can do 1/2 inch away. So 1/2 inch, a centimeter, and a little bit. I mean, it's not an exact science. You aren't going to be wrong if you are a little off. But I'm just using my fingers to tighten my knot where I want it. So I've got about 1/2 inch, and there. So I've got that one tied, and I'm gonna, good night, Irish Disney Nerd. It is good to see you, and hopefully Allison will be back, so it'll be even more chaotic again next week. So send good healing thoughts her way, and I hope you have an awesome, awesome weekend. Bye. All right, so I've picked another one, and these don't have to go in any particular order, because the idea is I'm going to tie all of these in knots, and then I'm going to set up my next set of knots. So once again, I'm going to tighten this about 1/2 inch away, or so. Now, if you want to use a smaller crystal and a smaller cord, you can make a mini version of this. I've done it, and it sold. It was so freaking cute. It was absolutely darling. Just this tiny little mesh, because I had a tiny little crystal, and I loved it so much. And somebody bought it, which is good. That's why we make the things, theoretically. I can always make another one. So you can see that these are not exactly the same length, but that really doesn't matter. This actually, I like this because it's kind of a chaos project, and if you see my face here teaching something, chances are very good that there's a lot of leeway. There are several correct ways of doing it, because I need that option. All right, so my third section, doing the little overhand knot. And once again, it does not matter what order you are tying these in, because you've already divided them into groups that make sense. So things that are next to each other. The next round is going to be more complicated, but that's why we have the bead stoppers to help us. Which is a thing that usually what happens is we'll write a handout, and then we'll start teaching the class, and then we'll come up with the genius idea that makes everything easier, because that's what teaching's about. You learn everything while you're teaching. So there's my third one, and now my fourth one. Is all of this clear as mud so far for everyone? Any questions? How's everybody's day? All right, so now I have 4 knots tied. So now what I'm going to do is I am going to I'm going to kind of put those in the round, and I'm going to make sense of, oh man, yeah, that's definitely a good thing. Muscle crabs are not the best. So what I'm doing is I am putting together my next round, and I am, instead of doing the same set of 2, I am alternating. So now I'm taking 1 from each section and putting them together. So I'm going to put a bead stopper on this one, and again, I'm doing this before I tie any knots, because that way, if something looks weird, I will know now and don't have to untie anything, which is obviously ideal. So I am just finding the piece next to its neighbor and attaching them together. So then I should end up with only 2 left. So what I'm looking for is, should be making kind of a grid pattern. So when it spreads out, if I had a knot there, it'll make a little diamond. All right, so all of my knots all of my cords look like they're in good places, so time for me to do my overhand knots again. So once again, I am just going to Is Keiko here? She posted in Discord that she wanted to follow along. Not that long before we started. Did she lose track of time and not get the notification? So once again, I am tying this knot about half an inch or so away from the previous knots. So now you can see what that's going to look like. See? So you've made a little diamond. And again, it does not matter what order you tie these in, as long as you are tying the ones that are next to each other. Because if you're not tying the ones next to each other after we do this section, it is going to be super obvious. But the good news is, you just have knots. I mean, it is actually quite easy. It's just a matter of grouping the right things, Corvus. So you're not wrong. It's a very easy technique. But if you mess it up, it's going to be messed up. But that doesn't mean you can't fix it, because again, I'm just tying knots. We can untie knots. So once again, I've got a little diamond that I've made. And it will be a lot more obvious what exactly is happening once I get the fourth one tied here. Because at that point, we'll actually have kind of a pocket. And if you don't have a ruler, you can, use your fingernail or thumbnail or some other handy unit of measure that is not very big. Because remember, we're making a diamond, so the widest part is going to be bigger than 0.5 inches. You could start with more cords if you had a larger stone, but you'd be surprised how much this actually expands. And see, now you can see what I'm doing. So I've got a little, right now, I've got a little square. And my stone will go, not that stone, my stone will go right inside that little square. And right now I don't have enough to come up over it, but I would probably extend the distance between the knots if this were just for a larger stone. But you absolutely can do this with more. This netting works with more than just groups of 4. You just have to make sure. So I think it has to be in 4s to go back and forth like that. I think. I haven't done the math. So you could do it, I mean, I'm doing with 8 cords. You probably could do it with 16/8 if you were doubling it. All right, so now I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm going to take these 2 cords, because you see how in my square these are next to each other, so I'm going to clip those together. And then these 2 go together. And these 2 go together. So you've probably seen mesh shopping bags made like this. I mean, it's the exact same technique. It's just more cord done more times. And it is incredibly expansive. It's a really cool knot or knotting technique. So it's, again, you're doing an overhand knot, but it's all about where you're putting things. So I'm back to overhand knot, so just make a loop, pull the end through, tighten my knot about 1/2 inch away. And you also just want to make sure that when you're doing this, you're not weirdly flipping things through. So you don't have anything inside out. You just have the knot, the beads themselves, and or not the cords themselves, and nothing is flipped through the cord. Just, it's not going to want to do that unless you drop it on the floor or something. If you drop it on the floor or something, then you want to just double check when you pick it up. But luckily, that is not a thing that you have to fight it on. It's not something it's going to want to do on its own. It's just something that could conceivably happen. So you want to. So Corvus, absolutely any cord would work. I like the knotting cord because we have it in a lot of different sizes and colors. But you could legitimately use absolutely any cord because this does not have to melt. We don't do anything that requires a certain type of cord. So you could do this with cotton, you could do it with polyester, you could do it with leather, you could do it with anything you like. And I did send out Zoom invite while I was waiting for the stream to populate. So you should already have Zoom invite for tomorrow. We shall see if Allison joins us. I'm going to try to make her go home as quickly as possible tomorrow. So she hopefully will only join from home. But we'll see, because that woman is stubborn. I don't know if you've noticed, but she is. She was at work today. I have never heard Allison sound so weak in my life, and I did not like it. Yeah, Of course you noticed. It's impossible not to. So she did actually listen to reason, and she left a little bit before close today. And instead of doing one pop-up tomorrow, or 2 pop-ups tomorrow, we're only doing 1. No, she cannot have ice cream. No food right now. That's part of the issue. All right, so now you can still see the square, because each time, where is the, oh good, the hand cam is frozen. That's fun. So let's go this way. So you can still see the square each time you tie these knots. So you can check that to make sure you're doing the right thing. But you can see that now it is definitely forming more of a netting that will fit something real. So this also works in large scale to make plant hangers and things like that. So you've seen this before, you just haven't seen it in this scale, most likely. But you can keep going. I'm going to do 1 more round. But if you have a particularly long stone, you might want to... Doesn't it? I mean, it's hard to argue with Lab. Come on. But see how I keep aiming it at the... So this comes through the netting because that point is a little bit too small. But if I put this upside down, then that works really well. So I'm just going to do, on this one, I'm only going to do 1 more section of the knots, because it really, it becomes a pocket much more quickly than you would expect. So let's see if we can try. Is anything happening? No, nothing is happening. I don't know how to fix that, so I'm unfortunately finish in front of the face cam. I'm so sorry, y'all. I did not break the hand cam. It broke itself, which I think is mean, but here we are. See, I wondered where you were, Keiko. I started on time. All right, so again, I'm just doing the sections that are next to each other. And I'm just clipping them together. Sure that I like the sections I've made, and then I'm going to go ahead and knot these, and then that'll be all you have to do for this one. Sorry, I can't put this in front of the camera because I'm trying to measure, and the hand camera has gone on vacation. I don't know why. It is doing its own thing. I wish it well, but it needs to come back for later. I am not the tech genius here. Allison would also rather balk at being called the tech genius, but of the two of us, she definitely is. So Keiko, it's just a lot of overhand knots. I'm so sorry. I did actually ask about you earlier. People can confirm that I did. I got a notification, so I am so sorry if you did not. Allison is definitely more familiar with the tech, and this is not the simplest tech setup ever in the whole wide world, but that's okay. So this round of knots is going to... Your mom's doing tech setup, okay. So the good news, Keiko, is this is incredibly straightforward. It's just doing the same set of things over and over again, which is really my favorite kind of project. Okay, so once you have your full complement of knots, so this should be long enough to hold most crystals that I might want to work with. So I like to check, I checked it with the chunky one, I checked it with the point. So I've got my lab that fits really well. I've got my amethyst point, which fits really well, as long as I don't have the really pointy part in. And I also like to try my agate slice because that shows you quite how stretchy this is. I mean, it really will hold a lot. And if this were for an agate slice, I actually might do one more round. But even without that, it's actually, it is the same distance between knots. Yes, everything is half an inch, and yeah, the pattern going up is really cool, and you just do the same thing over and over again. So I could do another set of knots, but what I'm going to do, which will also work, is just to kind of group them together. So as you can see, I've made my square again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tie these four and these four in their own knots. So all four of them together, all grouped together, and again, about half an inch away. And what I'm doing there is I'm just gathering them and making it a little bit tighter at the top so it will pull together a little bit more and make your stone more secure. These will hold quite well, like better than you might even expect, because you saw how those were sitting in there so nicely. And I'm not going to fling things around simply because of the size of this room. And by room, I mean tiny, tiny little optical illusion of a like cubicle. But I'm tying all of these together. It just tightens it up just a little bit at the top and makes your stone a little bit more likely to stay in. And if you have, once again, if you have a knot, sorry for my camera thing, one pooped out if you're just joining us, you can pull each end to tighten your knot. It really doesn't matter as much on all of your intermediary knots. It matters more on your penultimate knot, because we are going to have one more knot to make it a necklace. Still 0.5 inches, yes. Or about 1.25 centimeters. 0.5 inches, 12 millimeters-ish. All right, so now I can put whatever bead I want in there. Just a pendant. You could tie this on to a bale of some kind. You could, I guess, loop it over and loop and make the loop itself the bale. It's a little difficult to make this a neat pendant without involving some sort of hardware, because you've got all these ends to deal with. So yes, but I've never tried that, so I would need to kind of play with it and figure out what would work best. So to make this, though, a necklace, which is essentially what I was aiming for, I'm just gonna make sure that it is at least 2 feet long, so it will go over my head if I'm going to tie a knot. You can always put a clasp on it, or you can make a bead that slides on it or something like that, but I'm just going to, once again, tie my trusty overhand knot. So I'm going to make sure everything is lined up, and I'm going to just pull it up to where I'm going to tie my knot. And you want to make sure that these strings are all lined up so you don't have any weird links. So it's a little bit crooked. I'm going to do this without that tied in, because so I'm just tying my knot. And as long as you can straighten it out, then the weight of your pendant, or the weight of your crystal, will actually help it stay put. And if I want, I can cut these ends off and burn them, which is, I promised fire, so I'm just going to cut one of these off and burn it, because yay, fire! And also just to prove that this, I know, right, Corvus? So this does actually burn. A little bit. But most metallic cords don't melt as well. They burn like that, which is not melting. Melting and burning are not the same. But this does actually make a little point, which is the point of the idea behind burning things. You can make a little point or seal it off. So I can do that with this. But again, like I said, I'm not really going to be able to burn that end and like flip this over and seal it together with the melted ends like I do some macrame with the Chinese knotting cord. But I can seal off the end with the burning. So fire has happened. Crystal Keeper has happened. And anyone have any questions? Besides Lori's excellent question, and I will again burble on that and see if I can figure that out. So anyone? So we will be having another chips tutorial on Wednesday. And if you have any questions, we do have Zoom tomorrow, so I will be leading that. If Allison is not up to it, chances are very good I'm going to be leading that, because tomorrow is probably going to be crazy at work, and she will be here while I am off site. We have at least 4 people in class tomorrow, which is awesome. We love it, but it would be so great if Allison could feel better for this weekend, but she's really not, because she doesn't have any energy because she can't eat. So thank you all for being with us here tonight. My name is Heather. I am filling in for Allison, my boss, here at Beading Dreams. We are a brick and mortar retail bead store here in Dallas, Texas, and we are streaming online. We started that in the middle of the pandemic. We started that the second day of the pandemic here in Texas. Good night, Corvus, Lori, everyone. Thank you all for being here. We will absolutely. It's not actually complicated. It's really just placing things, and the bead stopper trick makes your bead stopper / any kind of clip makes your life so much easier. So if you have any clips lying around, which almost all of us do of some kind, then clothespins, it really doesn't matter. It can be anything. So thank you for being here tonight. We will have another tutorial here on Wednesday and one on Friday. The one on Friday will most likely be the wire filigree pendant that Allison was going to do tonight. The one on Wednesday, we will post a picture. It will be, I think, earrings involving chips. I've got a couple different ideas percolating, so there might be 2 earrings involving chips. So maybe 2 more weeks. So could just be Chipril instead of April. Anyway, thank you all for being here. Thank you for putting up with tech issues. I'm sorry, I don't know what happened with the hand cam, but I'm sure Allison can fix it when she is a little bit more fixed. And we will not be here tomorrow on Twitch. We will be on Zoom. If you want to be part of our Zoom, please let us know. We will send you an invitation. If someone, no one can post the Discord because Moobot is broken. So never mind. All of our tech is working so great. So I don't think it's going to work, Corvus. I don't know what the problem is with Moobot, but it is definitely not ideal. But anyway, yeah, still broken. Thank you for being here. We love you. We will see you tomorrow night on Zoom. If we do not see you tomorrow night on Zoom, we will be back right here on Twitch TV /Beading Dream on Wednesday evening at 6-ish p.m. Central Time. And it should be a podcast week, but if Allison is still feeling poorly, I am going to encourage her to put off the podcast for 1 more week because her body needs rest, and it needs rest more than we need podcasts. So either podcast on Wednesday or not, but definitely tutorial, because I'm going to handle the tutorial because I don't have an autoimmune disorder like that. So just the allergies. Thank you all, and we will see you tomorrow.